Hello and welcome to Friday's Production Power Hour. I'm Joe Drinkwater. Hiding in the wings is Mike Latter, who's going to break the rules for today's show, because we're going to talk about a one-person production system. And the problem with a one-person production system is, if something's not working properly, how are you going to fix it and speak at the same time? That's the challenge. Look, the big idea is you have this wonderful studio with all these people running around doing things for you. You have a presenter or two. You have some speakers invited in. You've got a producer to keep the whole thing running, a director to make sure it's all going to speed. You need an audio operator, at least one, to make sure the sound is coming in from everybody and all the levels are right. You need a graphics operator to do the slides and things like that. You need a platform operator to make sure the system works. You need a moderator for your chat. You need an editor for your content. There's probably another 2 or 3 people you could add in as well, depending how greedy you are in staff. But for so many of us, that's just never going to happen. It's not possible to have all those people on tap for doing a lot of productions. Quite often the production team is one person. If you're lucky, like we are, you get 2. But 3 or 4 doesn't happen very much. Why doesn't it? Cost. Having the people online at the right time. You've got a team of 5 or 6 people, that's 5 or 6 salaries. Or at least 5 or 6 people being charged per hour. So a producer, director, technical director, camera operator, audio engineer, lighting, graphics, playback, platform operator, show caller, moderator, streaming engine advisor, editor. It's just not going to happen. You're just going to wear all the hats. So in a normal setup for a TV production company, that's fine. But how many of us are running a TV production company? Even at a corporate level, a corporate's not going to pay for that many people to turn up. It's out of the budget. So what do? Well, quite obviously, hopefully, quite obviously, the idea is you don't wear all 15 jobs and do them live. It's not possible. We love Stream Decks. They're really useful things, but even a Stream Deck's not going to have enough buttons. I'm not going to have enough Stream Decks with enough buttons to cover all those jobs at once. So what you need to do is think about your presentation, think about your seminars, think about how you're going to arrange things and organize it all in advance. Because if you don't organize it all in advance, then things are not going to work. So I have a cheat sheet in front of me now telling me what to do, making sure that I get all the things done. Now, it is my corrector, but I use ChatGPT to help me create it. So I don't just get stuck in a bubble on my own. And sometimes it thinks of things that I haven't thought of. Sometimes it corrects me of things that I've left out. Sometimes it reminds me, like I haven't turned on the screen share yet, and Mike's probably panicking. But because my notes tell me I'm going to run a slide in a minute, I'm reminded that I need to get my slide share running. So when we're doing all of this, little things like notes and call lists and well, I'm trying to think of another example. Yeah, the notes on my slideshow, things like that are gonna remind me of points that I need to do. So I have taken out as much of the production away from the live and done it before, so that I can make the live just me concentrating on speaking and keeping up to my notes. And I'm not using a teleprompter today because most of you don't have a teleprompter. And the only cheat I'm doing really is Mike's changing the screen. But I could do that myself because I have down here, I have that great product called vMix. So I have a video switcher. It just happens to be a software one today. So I can actually do this. And I can switch between my slides layout and me. So I could be using that. And then I could use buttons for going to each slide and I could go through the slides. Or I could run Production Studio like we are now. And when I change the slides come up. And then I could just flip between that screen and me. Which is really cool because I now want to call up my next slide. We need to eliminate as many steps as possible during the live that we need to be responsible for and pre-process them in some way, shape or form so that we don't have to worry about them live. We can create actions that kick off Stream Deck actions that make things happen, make screens move, make cameras change. We can build things like that to make it work. And if you build them in a certain way, you can pretty much have them being the same buttons, doing the same thing show after show. And that is a good idea because it is totally a comfort zone if you know that the bottom right-hand corner button does your next slide, for instance. Or maybe you've got and I've got one here, I've got a oh dear, I can't say Stream Deck today, a Stream Deck foot pedal. Now I could program that. I've got 3 pedals on that, so I could program one to go to my next slide. So I wouldn't even have to press a button. I would just press with my foot and obviously not make it look obvious like that, but just to press it with my toe and I could go slide by slide. So I could control something like that. Maybe one of the other Stream Deck foot pedals could be a flip between what we've got now and me on my own. So I could flip between those two without, and if I had it toggle, the middle one would always flip and flop between the others. So that would work really well. So there's lots of things that you can automate at a very simple level. And it doesn't always deserve a mention, but when I was doing this last year with Mike, and when I was doing it before September, so over a year ago, before Mike joined on, I had all these little apps that did little things, but they didn't all work exactly the way I wanted to. But it's all changed now because with AI, if an app doesn't do what I want, I can build one to do it for me. I have an app to do drawing over screens. So I've got a touch screen down here and I can bring up a screen and then I can annotate it. But I'm not using annotation from Zoom. I'm not using annotation from any third-party product. I'm using my own annotation program because it's written to do exactly what I want it to do. And I connect it to the Stream Deck so it does exactly what I want it to. And all I can do with it is draw lines and boxes. So I can do point and I can make a box. So I can put a box around some text, whatever. And because it's not part of any other system, it's a piece of overlay software I've written myself. I can put anything I like onto that touchscreen. I can then edit it and you will see it live. Every other piece of software I've tried to use works fine, but it doesn't work the way I want it to. So AI has been like a mini game changer in the background, because little fiddly things that I always compromise my system to make them work, I can make operate. So I can eliminate bottlenecks and problems with very simple little apps. These are very simple little AI programs. They do very simple things, but those simple things are important. And the one thing that I must say to you again, and I will keep saying it, is of all the things AI does, it's really good at doing connections to Stream Deck. So if you've got anything you want to connect to Stream Deck, you can probably get AI to do it for you. As long as AI can talk to whatever you want, it's quite good. It doesn't matter because no one can see them. But the images it creates on the Stream Deck buttons, they're not designed they don't look that pretty. They're not really well done, but you can change them. You can update them with you can use Canva or something, make them better. But the point is, it's very easy now to create those tools to make things easier. So you can eliminate actions by doing them before. We can set presets, we can automate, and that means that the number of people you need to run your operation is much reduced, almost the point where you can, if you're brave enough, do it as a 2Z. If you're really mad and brave, you can do it on your own. If you can find all the buttons and work out where they all are, it will work. So if we're going to produce a show, we're going to need some content. And you need to be really careful that you know what you're going to be doing. Now, I have a run of show. And in the old days, it would just be a slide deck. And then in the less old days, it was a slide deck with a ton of notes in the notes section. So my preview for my PowerPoint, the images are quite small. I've just got this horrendously large area for notes. But the notes now have got more intelligent, because our notes tend to tell me, I put a hash symbol, and then I have commands. So it's not words, it's instructions to me to remind me to do things. And yes, I've been thinking about using AI to make a program to read those commands and act on them, because you can do that, So you may want to have a go at that as well, go at that yourself, but it does work. You can do that. You can get apps to read a PowerPoint slideshow and then extract the commands out and then behave. So you could do one slide, and that slide could then kick off other things. Or you could do it another way. You can pre-program the Stream Deck with all your actions, and when you press the button, the slideshow goes. Maybe the screen layout changes. Maybe the microphone goes on or off. Maybe a sound effect happens. You can build these all together. So that works really well. And then the next thing, of course, is pictures. Well, that's probably a thing that you're going to want to create ahead of the show. You're not going to really want to have to try and do pictures while you're doing it. But when I say pictures, I mean images. I mean scenes, how your layout's going to be. Are you going to have the layout the two up? Or are you just going to have the picture? Are you going to have yourself a small one? Are you going to be sharing something? So are you going to change what happens in your camera box? What's your switching strategy? How are you going to keep it interesting? Because Mike's flipping around the screens, not because he's just feeling he wants to do something, but because we know that if we stay on the same screen for a minute or two, your eyes get bored because there's nothing happening. So we switch up and we switch out the images. That's why we do slides. We don't do slides to hide behind them. We do slides to give you something else to look at, something for your brain to connect with. If I've got a guest, I'm going to want to two up to the guest so I can set the guest up and talk to the guest. I might want to zoom in and a zoom out type shot so I can do that close one to camera that I like to do. And without me having to ruin my back leaning forward and backwards all the time. We can do all those things. And personally, I can do it on Production Studio because we're running in Zoom. I can do it on my ATEM because my ATEM's got scene switching. I can do it on my vMix down there because that's got scene switching. I could run some scene switching software because there's loads on the Mac. And I can use that instead. So there's loads of different ways to do this. You just choose the one that's easiest for you to do because you're trying to become a one-person production. And therefore, you want to make sure you use tools that you can work with. So don't choose something complicated just because it sounds fancy. Choose something that's within your skill set that you're going to feel comfortable with because you don't want to be pushing the boat out when you're trying to run productions on your own. And that's why all your graphics, your slides, all your playback content, all that sort of stuff, again, needs to be created beforehand. You might have a lower third that appears at the bottom of the screen, but you want it prepared. You need all your titles, your stingers, your countdown, the slides that I've got that I'm showing you now. You need those assets all ready and designed. That's why it doesn't matter how long I do a show for, whether it's half an hour or 2 hours, it always has an hour's preparation time before it to create it. Now, sometimes that hour's preparation time is the morning before. It can be the day before if I'm really in organized mode, but it's more likely to be the morning before. So I might do half an hour the morning before to get all the collateral or whatever you want to call it, all the information together so that I can do the show. A day early is as far back as I ever go. Not because I'm disorganized, but if I organize a show 3 or 4 days in advance, I'm probably going to forgot a lot of what it's about by the time I get to show. So I always tend to do the show the morning of the show or a couple of hours before so that I know what I'm doing. I used to do it the hour before, and that worked quite well. But I found that if I move it another hour forward and then give myself some free time between that and the show, my subconscious has had time to process the show. So my subconscious does more of the work than I do. I've just gone ahead one slide without moving my notes because I've only done it recently and my brain has remembered all the notes. And I've just been scanning the notes to see if I've missed anything. And guess what? I didn't. So the next one is the hardest one for me. The next situation we have to think about is your platform and your audience control. Because your audience is sitting in chat. And if I don't flip over to the Zoom screen now and again, I'm not going to know that Tony's here and Juju's here again as well. So welcome to both of them. I'm not going to know these things if I don't have access to the chat. So I need another screen. Maybe I'm going to bring up on a browser. Maybe I'm going to press a button on my screen and it's going to come up. But you need to be able to keep an idea on your audience. Otherwise, you might as well just record the show before anyone even turns up and just deliver it pre-recorded. If you're not going to interact with your audience in the show as the presenter, then there's no point in doing it live. You might as well pre-record it without the worry of everybody being there, and then you can just interact with the people in the chat. So you've got to think about your audience. How are you going to treat your audience? How are you going to work with your audience? Is anyone in the audience going to be brought on stage? Can they ask questions live? Can they audio on and ask their questions? Or are they just going to put them in chat? If they're going to put them in chat, are you going to use one of these clever tools to bring them onto the screen as well? Because that's really powerful. And then, of course, if you've got people in a webinar format, you've got what, chats, Q&A, breakouts. You've got lots of ways of interacting with the audience who are with you in the webinar. And you might perhaps take take the audience into a breakout room? Somebody's going to put in the chat, how do you do that? And the answer is, I don't know. I've only just connected those dots in my head. But I might bring the audience into the breakout room scenario and maybe have a breakout room for the audience while online. And when I mean the audience, I mean the audience on YouTube, while the rest of the people, the participants, are all having their breakout rooms. What destinations are you streaming to? Which ones are you going to stream to and which ones are you going to upload the recording to later? I played around with this and I don't have an answer. You can't upload videos or go live to everything because it just gets complicated. But there may be people who you want to give priority to go live to. There are advantages in some social media going live, and there's some advantages to doing the pre-recorded. And I don't think there's a hard and fast rule for you on which way around you should do it. I think it's going to depend on your audience, whether they're going to take part and whether they're going to join in with you. But you need to think about that. So you need to think about your platform and your audience. So the next thing is show control. In other words, how are we going to make this all work? How are we going to make this all work? What are you going to use? You're going to use screen shares, you're going to use multiple cameras, you're going to mix it and then send it out through one camera box. Or, how are you going to do that? And again, you've got to think of a way that means it's more the maintenance is before the show and less maintenance is needed during the show. So maybe you've got a set of buttons that automatically bring on your lower third or bring on a title and just get a flow going for how it works. And also for your audience you're going on a regular basis, the whole idea of having a flow will make it easier for them to follow it as well, because they'll get into the system. If you have a repeating set of screens, it's not boring, it's actually comforting because there's a flow. They know how it's happening. If you want to have a drink, have a way to go to the slides so that you can grab a drink while no one notices. You do simple things like that. Keep your show control easy, because even if you've got an assistant doing it with you, when you're a presenter, it's very difficult to talk to the person who's controlling the back ends at the same time as delivering the content. So you need to have a system that you both know the way the whole thing trundles along so that you can control it, which gets to the biggest job in the world, the presenter, which is, guess what, you. So why not have a guest? Guest is useful. You can pass the subject on to them and have a rest. And perhaps grab a drink like I did then. Except, of course, I had to put a dramatic pause in to have my drink during. It's got to be thought about. And don't worry if you don't have a person who can come on with you. You can pre-record a section with them. Have a 15-minute conversation with some guest and then insert it in your show somewhere. That'll give you a chance to catch your breath, have a drink, check on the chat, do things like that. So when you're live, you don't have to be live every single second. Create some pre-recorded stuff. Mix it up. It makes life so much easier. It gives you a chance to catch your breath. It gives you a chance to reset, see what's going on. It's a comfort thing as well. If things are going wrong or you're falling apart and you don't know what you're doing, have some pre-recorded content that you can put in at any particular point that's part of the show but doesn't specifically have to be in a particular place, and then you can throw it in as like a filler, and then you can get everything in under control. As long as you turn your microphone off, of course. You're not going, oh God, I got to get this right. No, I got to go on in a minute. And we all talk to ourselves in those moments of stress. So make sure your microphone's off, but carry on. Can get back control. But the thing you can't forget is you are going to be the presenter. So the presenters is the core thing that you need to work everything else around. So I have one person, one production studio. I have a possible thing of doing it. I hope most of you will be able to run it as two people. You're going to get somebody to help you do things. But if you're going to run webinars at weird times of the day and night, there are going to be times when even your fantastic assistant is not going to be available for you. And then you're going to have to run something on your own. So mix it up. And it's quite possible with a bit of tech. But the point is, don't get carried away with the tech. Use tech when you need it. So I'm going to give you my 5 takeaways, and then we'll bring Mike onto the stage and see what takeaways he has for us. But here are my 5. And yes, I got AI to lay this all out for me nice and pretty as well. So the first one is, you've got to remember you're doing multiple jobs. So you want to offload as many of those jobs as possible so that you don't have to do them all live. Which is, guess what? Point number 2. Don't do them all live. As much as you can, being pre-recorded is really cool. And I can tell you from experience that if you run a bit of content, then you put up a slide and then you come back on, and because the other one was pre-recorded and you're in real time, you've moved that far across your screen. I can promise you 999 people out of 1,000 are not going to notice you moved, because one was a recording and the other one was you live. So you can mix it up, even your own content. A lot of people won't even notice if you changed your shirt, but it's a good idea to keep the same one. Number 3, eliminate actions that are not needed when live. Eliminate the things that you can do beforehand. Create presets to make things happen from one button click so that you get screen layouts and camera changes and whatever all happening in one key press. A lot of these things around Stream Decks and things like that, you can do things which can be a cascade of actions, and they don't always have to be instantly all together. You can do a cascade of actions, so something can happen and then 5 seconds later, maybe I come on the screen and 5 seconds later my lower thirds appears, and then 10 seconds after that the slideshow slides in, and then 2 seconds after that my name disappears from the bottom. That will be a really cool set of actions, and if you know they're happening, you can work around those. Number 4, build systems. Don't build stress. So build things that work to help you. Don't build things that make things more complicated for you. Grab a drink while the slide shows up so that you have a chance to know you've got those opportunities. And the last one is the most important one for all. Protect your presentation brain space. You don't want to get in a scenario where you're now panicking about everything not working and you can't think of what you're going to say next. So it's really important that when you get stuck, you have a get out of jail card free. And that's why I say, if you have something that's pre-produced, the recording, I've got a selection of images. Actually, I could probably show you one. my favorite one is a broken pencil. So if anything went wrong for a particular Toastmasters presentations we were doing, I had this broken pencil that would come up. I never used it. But the fact it was there and I could press the button if I ever needed it just made me feel more in control. And of course, if you don't know what to say, all you want to do is just drag a co-presenter onto the screen and then they can take over for you and you can relax for a minute and check the chat and make sure everything else is working. Because it's not something you want to look scared and you don't want to look stressed and you don't want to look worried. It's not a good impression. So preparation is key. If you fail to prepare, you've just prepared to fail. I think that's the phrase. Well, it is now. But I'm sure Mike's got a better phrase than I have. But somebody thought it was a good idea because I've just seen an emoji float up over our YouTube channel. So, Mike Latter, you do a few presentations in your time. Have you got some hints for how you survive on your own? Welcome.
Welcome. And everybody can hear me and I hit the right buttons today. All right. I did indeed. And I've got our graphics up and I got our names up. So I've done many presentations myself, and I've also done many presentations for other people, such as John, and plus my many years in the production world. Of course, I've been hired to do many different executive type scenarios, from it being in a studio to it actually being in an lecture hall or banquet hall or, gymnasiums sometimes. And it's even been to the point of, theaters and churches. So when it comes to all the different scenarios that John is talking about, that's exactly it. When you are one person production, you have to make sure that you do have something that is enough of a, I call it a checklist. Many other people will call it run of show. Basically, even before I joined us today, before we went live here today on PPPH, I always do an actual checklist on my own equipment in my studio as it is, where I make sure that I have a certain methodology of I'm turning this on first, then I'm turning that on next, then I'm turning this on next, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then when I'm actually joining the show, then I have another checklist of, okay, so I know I'm going to be connecting via Zoom. So now I make sure that my audio is working, my video is working, and I'll do all my tests in Zoom before I get into actually clicking on that final button going, yeah, I'm now ready to go as me into Backstage, because we're using Webinars Plus for Zoom. So I'm already done all my checks at my end before I've actually connected up. And then at that particular point, then I continue with my checklist of going through. Once I have access to Production Studio from John, then I go through all the different scenes and manipulate to make sure that everybody's in their spots. And you'll go, but Mike, that means you're running things in the background and John's presenting. Correct. But again, even if you are a one-person production, you would still have to do all of these type of things, especially if you're using Production Studio to get things done. But again, it's up to you how professional you want to look. So again, Production Studio definitely makes you look very, very professional, especially when you're presenting, because everybody knows what a meetings looks like. You're just there and you're talking. And we either spotlight you or we don't spotlight you. And if somebody else does cough, all of a sudden you disappear off the screen. So we know in Zoom's world that'll happen. In any of the other type of meeting platforms, that'll happen. So in Production Studio, that takes it one step further, where John was able to see and was able to take a couple of drinks as he was presenting, but you guys never saw that because ahead of time, I actually had John I was able to take John off of from what you guys see live and was able to put up the slide. And then that gave a cue to John, as we've been doing this a while now, that he's like, oh, Mike's giving me a chance for me to take a sip of water and continue on. So doing multiple jobs, yes. Don't do them all live, yes, correct. So as you saw, as we joined the actual show, we have our countdown clock. So obviously that is a video. So again, if videos will definitely help you, but again, make sure that you do a good segue and just don't go, oh yeah, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to play the video now. You're still in meeting mode, right? You're not in production mode at that particular point. So if you've planned enough ahead of time as well to make sure that your videos are all in the Webinar Plus system as we're using Zoom today, or even the videos are in ready so that you can actually switch from yourself to the video or whatever package you're using, like John was saying with vMix or OBS on Windows side or Ecamm, Mimo Live on Mac side, then you're able to give that bit of interactivity of, that you wanted to make sure that, let's say you're doing a demonstration of software. Well, you wanted to make sure that the software is running perfectly. So you would tape that ahead of time so that you don't have any, situations where, especially if you're doing an example of AI, all of a sudden that's all you need is AI to be slow. And all of a sudden you're now wasting an extra couple of minutes of dead air time where all of a sudden you're waiting for that AI to go, yeah, I think I'm going to answer now. So again, it's just so where you could easily edit that part of it out, where you actually have it full screen, where AI, you typed in the information to AI and it's doing its thinking, but you could always creatively make it look like, oh yeah, it took like 2 seconds to actually do it and you got your results. So there's a bit of magic of television that also comes into play. But yeah, I've done many different one-person productions, but I've also done others where, again, assisting John, of course, with our 2 shows, and then of course, Zoom Test Kitchen too. So that's the third one there, and Juju knows me from the Blind and Beyond show, so I'm also doing that one in the back end. But again, could all these shows run as smoothly as one person? Yes. Difficult? Yes. A lot more stress? Yes. But again, build your systems, as John said, so that you don't have to stress. And they're just at a button push. How's that, Johnny?
Well, yeah, exactly, Mike. If you've got a production app like Production Studio or any of the other software products, you can, if you want to, just create a set of scenes and just work your way down the list of scenes. And those scenes can jump you then between speakers and slide presentations and things. You can build them all the way down there, or you can have a common home screen, shall we say, of whatever layout of speakers that you want. And then you just jump from that to the other content and backwards and forwards. If you've got a slideshow, you've got a slideshow sharing feature, which I think almost all those products are going to have. Then you can have a slideshow and you can flip between the slideshow, and then the slideshow itself is controlling what slides are being seen, and you get the interaction there. So we've got a slideshow here. So I've got control on the slides. So I can change the slides, whereas Mike's got the control to change the scene, but you can mix that up in any way. I've got a slideshow program that anybody on the internet could control my slides if they had the app that I've created. And again, that's a good example where there are lots of slideshow apps out there, but I've created one that fits in with everything else I do, so that I can integrate that with the other little apps I've made, so I can live on Stream Decks, which is good because I've got about 7 or 8 of them now. So it's good to be making use of them all. But this is just easy stuff to do. I say easy stuff to do as in not it's easy to create, but it's easy to use, because that's the important thing. You want to put all your problems into a bucket that you deal with before the show. You don't want anything that's hard during the show. You want everything that's easy during the show. Because during the show, you don't have time to plug something in and get it all working. It's got to be done during the show. Unless you can flip to that 5-minute video which explains something and then you can run off and panic and get things sorted, you might get away with it. But it's much easier for you and for your audience that you have it all done before the show. And that way you don't have to worry about it. And then, of course, when you run out of things to say, not that I have yet, but I'm getting close, then you've got all those people who are going to put questions in the chat, aren't they? Like Tony, who likes how Mimo Live has built in an HTTP API to utilize the iPad. So there we are. So there's one product talking to the iPad, so you can make that. And Tony's asking, any thoughts on this approach? Well, Tony, do what you like. And I mean that in every sense of the word. Do what you like. What you like doing, do it. What you know, do it. Use apps that you like and that you know. Don't use app just because some clever dick has shown off using them. Use apps because you know them and you know how to get around them and they fit into your workflow. Because the one thing you want to be is a cool cat while you're presenting. You don't want to be panicking about software you haven't used. I have software here on my desk which I could be using, but I'm not using it because I'm not confident enough with it at the moment that I can trust it, that I can just press a button and it will work for me. I need to understand the software. I need to play with it. Now, one of the ways you can do that is use it for helping you create pre-recorded content. And then once you're confident it works for you, you can then use it live. And then it becomes another tool in your toolkit. But try and keep your toolkit to things you know, and try and keep your toolkit simple. So if you have any clever tools that you can pre-program them, and then just leave it on, I don't know, you break out to your Stream Deck so that you have everything in one place. The reason we all like Stream Decks is because it's so much easier to have something you need to be done and dedicate a button on a box to do it, rather than having to go to that computer or that iPad or whatever to find the little mouse click or the button click or finger click or the menu that you need. It's so much easier to pull things down like that and just dedicate it to a button. You just press the button. I've done shows where I've just got a succession of buttons and I just work my way through the buttons, and each button is the next thing in the list. Or you can have, like I said earlier, you can have something like a foot button, which always goes on to the next, whatever it is, the next slide, the next scene or whatever, and just takes you across from one thing to another. It is so much easier. And whereas a normal presenter would have a teleprompter with the words, you can have the words plus the actions, the reminders of what you're going to be doing next, switch to camera 2, whatever you want to do, and then just follow it through. And you can even have a button which says, pass over to Mike and have a drink. And it works like this.
Oh, caught him.
And if Mike takes the hint, you're okay.
In that case, I purposely showed you on full screen because you showed it that showed that you're going to do that. But yeah, you couldn't be more right, John. When it comes to, if Mimo Live is your tool of choice, use it and understand it. Become an expert of it, because if you are doing an event for it and getting paid for it, that is your tool. And if you do not know your tool, this would be like a carpenter not knowing how to use a saw or a hammer. If you do not know your tool inside out and backwards, especially if there's going to be potential problems, because it is Mimo Live and it is a video software switcher. You need to know ahead of time how you're going to fix the problem and what the actual problem will be. And it's very cool to know that they actually have the built-in HTTP API for iPads. So that's very similar. Also, vMix also has the capabilities as well, where you actually pull in a web page into any device. And basically at that particular point, if it's a touchscreen, which a tablet is, then it becomes your button use. And same with Companion as well. If you're familiar with that as well, you actually have you could actually run Companion without actually having a physical Stream Deck, and just actually have a tablet, because they do have a web interface. As long as, again, you can touch the buttons on the screen, you'll be able to change stuff.
So that's it. That's all there is.
Yeah. John, you actually did not talk too much about sound. Your sound slide. And no, I didn't turn him off, gang.
The most important thing about slide is being heard.
Yes.
So your sound needs to work. But of course, how are you going to know that it works? That is the question. Somewhere in your production system, you need some bars. You need some or visual feedback that your audio is working. You need to know. One of the tricks I do is quite often I have an old iPad, and I get it to join whatever meeting, seminar, or whatever I'm doing. And it's usually like 5 seconds behind, or maybe it's just a second behind, depending on what production I'm doing and who it's connected as. Got the volume down low, but the volume is up enough that I can hear it in the background, so that I know that the audio is getting to that. And if I don't hear the audio coming from that, I know my audio is broken. You know, and the audio can break in lots of different ways. It can break because your microphone's not working. It can break because you've just played a piece of music and the music's not heard by anybody. Well, not heard by the audience. So there's lots of different places your audio can break down, and it's always good to have a way of monitoring it. It's also good as well to know that your image is right, your picture's right. That can also, with your monitor person joining through your iPad, that can also be caught as well. But sound is important. And personally, if you're talking a bit too quiet for your sound, it's difficult to do because of the way I set this up. If you realize it's not right, don't start shouting later, because people have turned up all their microphones and now you've just deafened them. So if you are setting up your sound, whether it's a little bit quiet, a little bit noisy, or a little bit off, you want to make sure that you keep your sound consistent. And when you play music, Mike, you want about 25% sound usually for music, because it's just so much more deafening than conversation?
Correct. Because of the fact that the production level of an audio clip or an audio song is so much more well produced, as Johnny takes another drink and everybody's watching. And I didn't get the hint that I should be full screen, and everybody's now laughing at us. When it comes to doing audio from a video, yes, I purposely will make sure that the audio, specifically my rule of thumb for Zoom Production Studio, I'll give that quick tip out, is I don't go over in the video player itself over 30. Sometimes it'll be 25, if not 30. By default, Production Studio right now has us go at 50, and 50 is just way too loud. Way too loud for most production stuff, especially the videos that John has done, which have been awesome in video and audio quality. But again, it's just that the player is so loud, which is great too, but it doesn't need to be that loud, because all I need is all of a sudden it to be projecting really loud. Then all of a sudden John and I come on and all you hear is, "Hi everybody, how are you?" And then everybody's running for their volume. I know you've been in meetings that people you've had to do that for. So again, it's one of those production tips, especially as a one person show, that you got to make sure that your audio level, as well as any video and audio clips that you are playing, are not blowing everybody's ears out, because all of a sudden when you come back from that video clip, like John was saying, don't necessarily have to do everything live. If you're going to a video clip and coming back from that video clip, again, you don't want it to be too low, and you definitely don't want it to be too loud. So again, you've got to make sure that ahead of time, as part of your checklist, I'm at X audio level, play that video back, make sure that that video is also at the same level. No matter how you recorded it or not, if you need to boost it, this is going to be your time to boost it. If it's too loud, then this is the time for you to pull back on the audio. So yeah, perfect example, Johnny, when it comes to, and so that is important when it comes to sound and video clips, especially, to make sure that everything is very good.
So you see, it's not that hard.
No, it's just small little things.
Yeah. You need to
But
kiss.
again, to be consistent with the small little things too is important, to make sure that you have your checklists, before you join checklists, or you have your, as it's called in the industry, run of show checklist, which is basically, this is going to happen now, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this. Great. In the Zoom production studio world, that could easily be scene 1, scene 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or you can manipulate your scenes around and move them around. If you last minute all of a sudden need to, you can do that. But again, it's all about being organized, and because if you're not organized, it'll come across that you're not organized very, very quickly. And John, I know even when you're presenting at Toastmasters, I would assume that's a big trait that you guys talk about as well. If you're fumbling through notes, you're going to see it, right?
Yeah. Quite a lot of people, when they first start, will actually have notes. And that's a thing you want to get rid of really quickly. Sometimes they'll have cards. So quite often I will create presentations with slides, and you'll never get to see them, because they are just, for me, a roadmap for me to follow to do the presentation. Sometimes I will sit down with, have you noticed that AI just keeps making you look younger and younger? I'll ask it to do some slides for me. But a lot of time I create shows, and I create them with slides as the basis of the show, just to give me a framework to work within. But as I said, quite often I will do shows, I will do presentations, and sometimes you won't get to see any of the slides whatsoever. They're just my guidelines to keep me on track for the presentation. Sometimes those slides will get shown. Sometimes I've got 15 slides and you guys only get to see 6 or 7 of them, because I was talking through the other bit and we didn't need to show the slide, or the slide didn't have anything interesting on it. As long as you've got something to keep you on message, then you're going to be okay. And usually I want half a dozen things in my head that I want to go through. And then it's done. And then all you have to do is remember, you want a big close. Whether that be Mike encouraging all to subscribe, and or a closing theme tune. But you want to close with a bit of energy as well, so that people feel that you've delivered some content, and give them a call to action if you've got a call to action. So, a beginning and middle of an end, as somebody once said. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Because bottom line is this, and this ties in very well to what Mike said about being confident and not looking panicked. People will quite often completely forget what you said. They might remember the gist, but they're not going to remember everything. But the one thing for certain is they will remember how you made them feel. And if you made them feel on edge because you were pulling together the whole presentation by the skin of your teeth, that's not a good takeaway impression to have. If they leave feeling more confident about what you've talked about, feeling more inspired about what you've talked about, feeling more happy about what you talked about, those are the sort of emotions that you want people to leave. And I hope you're leaving with all three. And if you're not, then I've got some work to do. But thank you very much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to, because at last we've had some rain, and I've been able to fill up my rain storage system now with enough rain water to keep me through another few weeks of hot and dry weather, which is what we seem to be having over here at the moment. But it only remains for me to give a very unsubtle hint to Mike that we're getting to the end, so he knows which slides to get ready. And of course, to have him do his amazing roundup and call to actions, which he does so much better than me. And again, if you don't have a mic on standby, why not make that a pre-recorded bit as well? Because while he's doing a summation, I can do a last-minute check to all the chat to make sure I've not missed any questions. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Mike, for co-hosting this. And over to you.
Thank you, sir. And thanks, everyone, for joining us this week on the Production Professionals Power Hour, aka PPPH. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to let YouTube know how much you love our content, as I put in chat. Everybody hit that like button, and you will get to see more and more different topics on production related topics. And you never know, we might get some manufacturers showing up as well. Oh, and Juju says, getting a little better at confidence on camera, still needs some work. Excellent. Excellent. Yes, that's it. That's it. We're here to inspire. And don't forget to check us out every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And of course, as Rohit George has done, checked his local time zone to figure out when we are live. And that is awesome. So see everyone again next week for another edition of PPPH, aka the Production Professionals Power Hour. Take care, everyone. See you next week.
Lights go up and the cameras roll. Voices clear and we're in control. Screens are live and the signals flow. Welcome to the place where the pros all go.